Last season, the New York Knicks impressed the whole NBA world and even their own fan base, let's be honest. No one in the NBA even thought that the New York Knicks were going to come anywhere near the playoffs, let alone a 4th overall seed in the playoffs. While yes, maybe to some the Knicks disappointed by losing in the first round, it was still such a huge success of a season for the New York Knicks. The Knicks only overachieved, that's all they did. We all expected the Knicks to be one of the more bottom feeder teams, one of the worst teams. They didn't really have any amazing signings in the previous season. They didn't do any amazing trades. The New York Knicks were basically the same team as they were last year, waiting for something to happen or waiting for someone to come in and change the franchise. Little did they know that that player was going to be Julius Randle. The man took the Knicks and single-handedly won Most Improved Player, won an All-Star selection, and took the Knicks into the playoffs as a 4th overall seed. Following the Knicks' success made me wonder, what are the Knicks going to do from here? Are they going to continue to be a bad team, or will they build for the future? And I was right in thinking that they were going to build for the future. They're not going to wait around and hope that someone just develops into a superstar, as it already happened. They just did it, and they've had several opportunities before, but they failed in those. But now the Knicks finally have their guy, and they finally have a guy to build around and be successful around, and it is so exciting for all of New York. So some of the moves that the Knicks did in order to push them more towards the top of the NBA was they signed Evan Fournier, Kemba Walker, and Dwayne Bacon. These players can be great, especially offensively, as they'll just be more options to come off the bench or start for you and get you buckets when you mostly need them. I mean, we saw in the playoffs, Julius Randle really struggled when he had no other shot creators around him in the playoffs, and it was just him by himself. It was really difficult for the Knicks to generate any type of offense. Derrick Rose cannot be your only guy next to Julius Randle as a shot creator, as Derrick Rose isn't really too much of a threat from 3, so there isn't much he can do to help Julius Randle. The Knicks were locked down in the playoffs, and now that adding Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, that's going to help greatly because you're adding shot creation right next to Julius Randle. Now, the Knicks also re-signed Alec Burks, Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, Julius Randle, and Derrick Rose. Great. They brought back the veterans that helped them make the postseason. This is what is so important about NBA teams. You need your veteran leaders to help your young guys and push them further than what they think they can reach. Now, with those additions, they also had some losses. The Knicks lost out on Elfrid Payton, Reggie Bullock, and Frank Ntilikina. While some of those people, they don't really sound too significant. Reggie Bullock was a pretty big deal, but honestly, you don't really care too much because you just replaced him with Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker. So in reality, the Knicks, they don't really have too much of a hole anymore. Instead, their offense is even better now that they have 2 new shot creators that can help so mightily. Now, the reason why I love this for New York is because while this doesn't push them towards the top of the league and make them an instant contender, this does push the team up to be successful. They're not going to compete with the Lakers or the Nets, but this Knicks team can compete for a high playoff spot. And that's what's important about New York basketball. You see, when you're a big market in the NBA, you need to make big market moves. And those moves is signing good players even if it costs your salary. Why? Because at the end of the day, having a good basketball team is what's most important for a high value market, because you're always going to have amazing players that are going to want to play for your franchise. The only way that you can get them into your franchise is by having a competent basketball team. I mean, when you look at the Clippers were an 8th seed, and then they lost to the Warriors in the first round. But what happened after that? The Clippers were able to sign Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the same offseason after being an 8th seed. The Lakers, they had a young core, and they signed LeBron James because they're just in Los Angeles. The Brooklyn Nets had a decent young and up-and-coming team, and that team made the playoffs. And from there, they were able to sign 2 superstar players in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Being a large market is already going to be successful for you because you're going to have superstar players that want to play for your franchise. You just need to be good enough to bring them in. So now that the Knicks have a competent team and they brought in competent players that can actually score the ball and help the Knicks win games, this can only go uphill. Yes, you might say that they signed them for some pretty big deals, and they did. That Evan Fournier $80 million contract was huge. I'm not even going to lie to you. The additions that he brings to you and the great offense that he brings is totally worth it. And you're New York, so once you get tired of a player or you want to replace this player with an even better guy, you have the money, you have the picks, you have the resources, you have the young players. You have anything you need to pull off a trade, and you can literally do it in the blink of an eye. Large markets rule the NBA. I hate saying it because I love seeing teams like Milwaukee, Toronto win championships with homegrown players. I mean, obviously the Raptors had Kawhi, but You had Kyle Lowry being the main root of that championship team. I love seeing teams like that win championships. But if we're being honest, the teams that run the NBA are the large markets simply because they don't need to go through the process of what a small market team does. The large market teams, all they really have to do is sign players. All they got to do is wait for the right moment to sign superstar players to their decent NBA team. When it comes to large markets, all you truly have to do is just be competent and wait for that superstar player to come around and sign with your franchise. Again, we've seen it with the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, and Nets. Huge, large markets that just sign players just because players want to play there. So again, the New York Knicks, I'll grade their offseason as a B+ because I love that they're trying to win and they want to win, and it shows that the franchise is heading in the right direction. I'm giving them a B+ because, while yes, they signed some great players, I don't love these players, but I do think that they're great and they're necessary for building blocks of the future. The Knicks are going to use these guys as a way to sort of prove to other players that they can compete and they can be competent. And you can be a great player next to Julius Randle. That's what I believe they're trying to prove. And this offseason was a huge success for New York, and I expect winning basketball from New York. I project this team to win between 40 to 50 games next season, 45 to 50 games to be exact. That's my prediction for the Knicks, and I do believe they're going to have a great season next year. And I'm really looking forward to this team and what they can build off after next season. So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate all the love and support. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. It might sound funny saying that, but I truly am. Thank you guys so much for watching again. I truly appreciate all of it. Thank you guys so much. I'm out of here. Peace out.